partiamo con questo gioco meraviglioso, fantastico. Allora, ma in realtà mi serve? Io lascerei tutto come sta. Più che altro dovrebbe essere già in italiano. Io lo conosco, allora, io lo conosco già, l'ho già giocato, lo portai tanti anni fa e me lo consiglio la Narva. Lo consiglio a Narva. L'ho rivisto poi poco tempo fa da Ivo, però essendo il primo dell'Annapurna non potevo non portarlo. Sì, però questa volta Platinum, sì. Benissimo. What Remains of Edith Finch. Ah, posso girottolare? Edith Finch. Ah. L'audio è in inglese, quindi dovrete leggere il testo. Perché la voce in inglese è troppo bella per essere sovrastata. Oh, mamma mia.
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
Ci sono delle atmosfere.
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
Mi era precluso. Bellino, guarda là.
Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
Sì. Beh, non sono state mai aperte, mi sa.
I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral.
Cioè, avete visto l'effetto delle lettere? Bellissimo.
In her will, my mother left me a key but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
Infatti così è stato. Crac, crac, crac. Anche le avrei aperte quelle lettere. Le lettere vanno sempre aperte, che siano bollette o altro, perché è come lasciare qualcosa in sospeso.
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
Quindi alcuni cavalli sono venuti. Non posso farlo. Perché ci sono sempre cervi? Come su Life is Strange. O cervi o cerve.
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I have questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
Che casa
The house was
stramba.
exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
Poi non ho idea di quello che si dovrebbe fare per platinarlo in realtà, quindi... Beh. Milton Finch.
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words.
La casa mi mette a disagio. No, ma essendo un gioco che poi ricaricherò su YouTube, devo tagliarlo, montarlo, non mi metto a platinarlo.
As a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house.
Paura della casa?
I hoped the key might unlock the front door.
E invece no. E invece... No, dai. No, aspetta, vai.
Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me.
Che ansia per ora. Cioè, fortuna che so che non è horror. Sì, lasciala. Quindi spacchiamo qualche vetro e entriamo? Sì? Si spacca? Devo mettere il telefono silenzioso. Non penso di poter fare qualcosa qua. Lo fa? Ok.
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
Beh, direi. Adesso non so quanti anni tu abbia, però. Ma perché c'è una pallina a tennis appesa? A che serve? Cioè, mi dà l'idea che sia come un segnale per la macchina quando si deve fermare, però boh, non ha senso.
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home.
Beh, sei a casa.
The table was still a wreck from the night we left. It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
Hanno lasciato così? Edith. Questo me lo ricordo, questa è nostra nonna. Oddio, ma c'è ancora... Ma veramente?
My mom was the only one of us who could imagine Great Grandma Edie living in a nursing home.
La bisnonna. Cioè, mia bisnonna? Nonna di mamma?
Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth. Even the fireplace had a story. Edie told me the bricks came from the original house, after it sank.
Dopo che affondò. Però è molto claustrofobica comunque, eh. Cioè, ci sono troppe cose. Troppe cose.
Great Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house. Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
Ovviamente.
Instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
Suoi ricordi. È per quello che è
Only
angosciante.
one restaurant would deliver to our house. We had Chinese a lot.
Cinese, ovviamente. Louis Lynch, in Love in Memory. Da qua sono arrivata. Provo ad andare sopra. Oh, cos'è?
After Louis started working at the cannery, we all got pretty sick of salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
Dio, Molly. Me la ricordo Molly. Ok, questo l'ho visto. Provo ad andare sopra. Me lo fa fare.
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms.
Dopo
Then
la scomparsa di
Edie retaliated and
Milton.
drilled peepholes.
Non me lo ricordo Milton, bro. Sven. Gregory. Spioncini. Per spiare.
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
Ah, me la ricordo lei, sì.
Edie's father, Odin, built the original house.
Non ce l'ho mai... Ma sono incinta. Ma sono incinta. Non l'avevo mai vista. Cioè, perché... Sono incinta. Vabbè. Ora ha senso. Non me ne sono mai accorta, no?
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up.
Cieca.
Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him. Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of. Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan. From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me.
Ok. Milton. Milton era quello... Ok, ok, ok.
But I had no idea what was behind that door. Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead. I grew up. Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier gerbil cage. Being inside for the first time, I felt like I'd stepped behind a painting.
Beh sì, è molto... dà molto l'idea da dipinto, eh.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat. The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it. My Halloween candy was all
Oh
gone.
no. Oh no. Povere caramelle.
Mom, can I come out now?
Direi di no.
It's late. Go to sleep.
Ma ho fame. Ho fame.
I ate a lot of things that night.
Cose sane.
I kept eating and
Poi
eating.
dentifricio. Sì, buono. Saporito. Facciamo finta che sia ketchup. Vuoi anche sciacquarti un po'?
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly,
E all'improvviso diventa stray.
I was a cat. I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
Ha dei salti incredibili sto gatto. Guarda qua. Ciu, 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 ciu. Ciu. Ah, no. Hey.
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
Ah. Miau. 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 No, niente. Va bene. Dove... Piu. Piu.
I jumped and I almost got her.
È Ombra, non è così agile, Ombra.
I could tell she was getting really tired.
È andato.
Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore.
Le promesse vengono fatte infrante, sai, la vita.
I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl. First, all I heard was the wind.
Oh.
Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
Ma dove? Io non li vedo. Non li vedo. Ah, eccolo.
I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger.
Vabbè, c'era la cam, comunque l'ha divorato senza masticare.
A mama rabbit.
Che corre sul posto.
She was almost too big to carry. I started
Era quasi
choking,
troppo grande
but I
da
couldn't
trasportare,
stop
cominciai a
it.
soffocare, ma non potevo smettere di mangiare.
And suddenly, I was
E all'improvviso era
shark.
uno squalo. Un albero. Sharknado. Come rotolo buffo.
I rolled off a cliff and into the ocean. Now, I was hungrier than ever.
Ma vai sotto? Non vai sotto? Sì, vai sotto.
I wanted fat, juicy seeds.
Volevo delle foche belle grosse.
Pour off her flip
Le strappai
tasted
la pinna e aveva un sapore squisito.
grabbed on tight.
Strinsi forte.
I was so hungry.
Ma ero così affamata che saltai fuori dall'acqua.
When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
Quando aprì gli occhi tutto era cambiato.
Now I was a monster and I smelled people everywhere.
Sto correndo.
I was big, but I moved real quiet.
Ma ditemi l'audio del gioco è giusto.
I wanted to stop, but also I didn't.
Quanto sono enorme. Troppo tanto. C'era. No, ho sbagliato strada. Non posso entrare? Ah.
After the last passenger, I was still hungry. And across the water, I smelled something new. Something I had to have, so I swam towards it. I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
Ti piace Roblox, Ping? Ma per il gioco Dress to Impress? andrei... non andrò mai più in bagno tranquilla. Che devi fare su Roblox? Io conosco gente che ci gioca per Dress to Impress, praticamente devi vestire delle persone, cioè il pupetto per impressionare qualcun altro. Gioco, posso fare qualcosa? Ok.
I got closer and closer. All of my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
E lo sei stata? Molly? Deliziosa?
I
Sì?
got the sense Edie had spent a lot of time here before my mom sealed the doors.
Sicuro. Mi fa uscire?
I can't
No.
describe it, but I felt like some part of Molly was still here.
Beh, no, non mi fa uscire. Sono rimasta incastrata qui per sempre? Ah, dalla finestra. Dalla finestra.
This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly.
Beh, onesto.
I spent a lot of time in Great Grandma Edie's room.
E questa?
Her room was like a museum. For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan. On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the
Ha
curse
fatto un po' come
behind.
Up. Up ha usato i palloncini, invece lui una nave.
But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea.
Ah sì?
Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island.
Ah, Molly non è nostra sorella, è la figlia di Edie.
Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house. Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
Molto tempo fa. Eh sì.
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
Ma non lo fece. Dragon kills Finch.
Even in her 90s. Sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
Dove? Dov'è il dialogo? Non l'ho letto. Come rosa.
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom.
Già, bello.
It was a pretty big trace.
Ma tanto, troppo rosa. No?
There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
Bello. Molto bello. Calvin Finch.
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down.
Milton.
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin. And that he never talked
Ha un
about it.
gemello. Nel comando centrale.
I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
Ah. Non ricordo questo.
My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom. And he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
Sam! Calvin! Dinner's ready!
Aspetta, Arrivo
But
volando.
that day, he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that,
Non sarebbe cambiato nulla.
Calvin! I'm not gonna tell you again!
maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then
Forse
maybe
quella è una
he'd
casa
still be here.
plausibile.
But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother. The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
Lo fece.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
In realtà chi è che non ci ha provato mai con l'altalena a fare il giro completo? Un achievement. Non ci hai mai provato?
After the funeral,
Io sì.
Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room.
Ti viene la nausea?
Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
Non fatico a crederlo. Forse è mio fratello. Gemello, peraltro.
passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
Andare qua o là? Non lo so. Oh, qui. Forse devo andare là?
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
Ok. Penso di dover andare là. Ma voglio vedere che c'è qua. Anche se... Ok, sì, devo andare là. Milton ovunque.
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
Ma è
I
rimasta
never
sta
thought
stanza
about how
quando
hard
era
it must have
piccola.
been for her afterwards. Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw
Ma?
and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
Succedono cose.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box.
C'è la chiave nascosta del carillon.
Keep winding and winding until
Ah,
finally
ok.
it pops out.
Sì, la chiave esce fuori.
I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box. And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
Non è che Ricky è sotto. Bellissima questa cosa. Michael Myers. Attenzione.
She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
Ha avuto senso? Assolutamente no. È divertente? Assolutamente sì. Michael su COD hanno messo. In che senso?
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
qui. Ah!
The old fridge rattled and grew still.
Oh dear!
Oh.
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find
Sei
your
un
scream.
coglione.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and
She
Brava.
threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
A saperlo.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
Barbara! Ah, aiuto! Salgo, con la stampella in mano, Occhio. Occhio, Walter. Occhio. Che ti spacco, Stai calmo. Maronne. Già tutte cose. Ah, qua forse.
Walter, are you there?
Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Ma siamo pazzi?
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And the was, he couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
Ok, sì. Spacco tutto. Vai.
That night, she played her part beautifully.
Ma quale parte? Sta lottando per la sua vita. Qui siamo nella stanza di Molly. Usciamo dalla finestra.
Thought about abandoning Walter, but just couldn't do
Ma perché non poteva? Ma chi se ne frega? Porca miseria.
Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned.
Madonne. Ciao, bro.
He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might
Non è finita, no.
over yet.
Andiamo a dargli... lanciagli qualcosa, non so. Maronne. Scendo,
The hookman had vanished. She
Era
listened for his
svanito.
breathing,
Certo, era proprio
but all she
svanito.
heard was...
Dolcetto scherzetto? Comunque è in casa, cioè non è, può essere svanito in nulla. È un attimo!
was dying to speak to young Barbara. At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter? Hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music
Gigante
box is
bestia.
all they ever found of her.
È vero, c'è il gigante bestia. È vero.
Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
Beh, sì, per lei sicuramente. Sì, c'era una specie di gigante bestia. Ah,
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
beh, c'era una chiave. Ora bisogna solo ricordare dove... Ah, è sotto. È sotto? Mi pare? Ah, eccolo. Allah. Eccoci qua. Ho scantinato. Al basement.
Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot.
Alien purtroppo l'hanno tolto dal plus, Igoro, quindi... Niente. Allora,
I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages.
dei pacchetti.
I thought maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that. I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Infatti. Arrivo subito. Minchia, hanno sbattuto così forte la porta che sembrava che qualcuno fosse entrato in casa. C'è la porta esterna, ovviamente. Sei entrato tu?
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week.
Tommy, non stai guardando il dottor Ali? È finito? Non vedo cibo in live. Non vedo. Non c'è nessuno che mi sta portando cibo, quindi non sei entrato tu. Ciao, Mairito!
But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane. Having a schedule, living for today. I always expected to be dead tomorrow. But if you wait long enough, you get used to anything.
Ma lui si nutre di sole... Sì, questo qua.
Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal.
Ah, ok, lui pensa che ci sia un mostro dall'altra parte. Dopo lo spavento che si è preso con Barbara. Ma con tutto l'olio? Cioè, con tutto lo...
And then one day, everything just stopped.
Sciroppo, sì.
Whatever that thing was, it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid.
Facci pranzo per...
It's been a week now.
Non lo so,
The
una
longest
settimana?
in 30 years.
No, in 30 anni. 30 anni! È 30 anni che
I'm
mangia
done
sta roba!
I have to leave. Well, I still can.
Allora, lui sono 30 anni che sta qua. È una settimana che non c'è più sto rumore incredibile. E ha deciso di andarsene. Ok.
I know it's out there, somewhere. Whatever killed Barbara.
Traumatizzato
Molly.
dalla storia di Barbara e Molly.
And Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake.
Cioè, ha fatto un po' come quella su Final Destination 2 del primo, che si era proprio chiusa in manicomio per sopravvivere.
Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it.
Puoi camminare un po' qua?
I'm going to appreciate all of it,
Muro muro?
especially the food.
Non
I
puoi
don't mind
camminare
if I
muro
only have a year
muro?
left. Or a month. Or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
Non era un mostro, era il treno.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here.
Ah, no, aspetta. No. Avevo letto, Walter morì quando aveva 6 anni. Invece quando avevo 6 anni. Infatti non aveva senso.
I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me. Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter. But if she never told me about an uncle under the house, I can only imagine what else she was hiding.
Beh.
I don't want to make the same mistakes she made.
Bravo.
Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe 2, I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself and found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem.
Beh, direi.
Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real.
Dove vai? Dove stiamo andando? Ok.
I don't know if I should even be writing this. Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of.
Di cui fai parte. Penso parli al bambino /A.
Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now.
No, è tutto così chiaro.
I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth.
Guarda qua il panorama. Cioè, abbiamo fatto il giro da sotto, siamo sbucati sotto e stiamo risalendo.
And when you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible.
Ehi. Dove andiamo? Qua? No, dove qua? Ma c'è la staccionata lì. No? Ok, no. Ah, guardate l'altalena aggrovigliata.
I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house?
Nessuna.
It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one.
Perché è imbarazzante?
3 of the gerbils were mine, and 2 had been my fault. Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
Ah, un attimo con le ali.
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away.
Come giusto che sia, d'altronde il
She could
passato
see
non deve
it
essere
poking out
dimenticato.
of the water at low tide. Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night.
Prima puntata dedicata a Pinguino e puntata di cosa? No. Nope, no.
Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better.
Sam, Gregory, Gus.
She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us.
Vabbè.
We never found Milton's body, so my mom insisted we were putting up a monument, not a tombstone.
Non trovarono mai il corpo di
There's so many
Milton.
things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself. But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
Beh, direi. Tutto a fare ste cose. Vedi la scema. Dove andiamo? Ah, di qua.
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were both pretty intense.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime. Perfect.
Ah, me la
It's gonna
ricordo.
rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are.
Posso fare il foto... Cosa voglio? Sto zoom fa schifo, papà.
Here
right, Dad. It's starting to clear up. Still freezing, though. Aw.
Uccellini! C'è un foto anche quello. Vai. Poi. Foto anche là. Vai. Cos'altro? Bello sto effetto. Guarda qua. Boom! Papà? Posso fare questo? Posso continuare per sempre io, eh? Te lo dico.
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee.
Hold still.
Hey!
That's a keeper.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Don. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Don, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years.
I pesci che abbiamo pescato. Siamo stati bravissimi.
Last time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip.
Tutto, tutto.
Your grandpa Sven taught us how to fish, how to build a fire. We found an old logging trail. There were deer everywhere.
Che piacere. Non ne vedo per leggervi adesso.
I bet if I could remember where that trail was, we'd spot a buck for you in no time. Give me a minute to check the map.
E controlla la mappa, che ti devo dire? Siamo persi. Lo sapevo. Siamo persi. Lo so, papà, ammettilo. Siamo persi.
Let's see.
Che vuoi vedere? Siamo persi.
Don, don't you think you could find something more interesting to photograph?
No, no.
You don't need to waste any more film on me, kid.
Ah no? Io non so che... Forse? Bellini! Ah,
Nice,
sì, l'ho
Don.
visto.
Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Ma perché devo sparare?
Dad, I...
Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Don, you don't have to do anything. But if you want... Great shot, Don!
Forse devo aspettare.
I'm proud of you, Don. Always remember that, okay?
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
some-
normal, Don. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad! Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
I believe I can fly. Ciao Corone, buonanotte. Vabbè, a ognuno il suo.
Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
Semplicemente viveva. Viveva e non se ne preoccupava troppo. Che doveva fare? Famiglia maledetta. O ti nascondi per sempre o cerchi di vivere. No, ho sbagliato tutto alla vita, devi andare là.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
E beh, padre e marito, vorrei ben dire. Ah, questa è tosta. Questa è tosta. A me sinceramente non ha fatto tanto effetto. Mi ha fatto più effetto la parte di Lewis. Però so che a molti potrebbe. Ah no, aspetta. Sam non era il marito della nonna. Sam è il marito di nostra madre, quindi penso nostro padre? O no? Sono confusa. Sono confusa assai.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it.
Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
Ma lo stacchiamo sto telefono, che
Hold
dici?
on, I don't want Gregory to hear this.
I wish she could have told us. I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
Ah sì, perché Eddie si è sposata con Sven, non con Sam. Quindi Sam è uno dei figli di Eddie.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet
Eppure?
a poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard.
Da sapere non ci picchiamo mai da bambini. No, devo togliere la cam qua perché se no non mi vedete. Troppo forte prima del giorno in cui mio fratello disse con tipico sprezzo giovanile che sarebbe morto piuttosto che assistere a un matrimonio nel nostro cortile.
My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom were the words that
I now pronounce you husband and wife. To make him cry.
Mamma mia, spacco tutto.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger. The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. Rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder."
Quindi alzato il volume della musica, non capire che tuo figlio è fuori da solo.
truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't. Until we found you.
Me la poesia di merda, se posso permettermi. Veramente.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
Mi posso... Sì?
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died.
Ah! Nostra madre è Dawn. Quindi è... Ah, ok, ce l'ho. Quindi... lei c'era quando è morto il padre. Il cacciatore. E c'ha avuto altri 3 figli. Di cui uno è Louis. E Milton.
At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
Ma questo bambino è tutto sporco.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
Ok.
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died.
Beh, direi. Penso sia normale in realtà.
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later.
Louis nacque un anno dopo.
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go.
Minchia.
I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back.
Ah, poi è tornata a casa. Dopo la
The house
morte del
had to get a
marito.
little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal.
E per un po'. Poi?
But it didn't last. The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Un castello.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Forte. Bellino.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
È scomparso proprio? Cioè, nessuno sa che fine abbia fatto?
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
No, ho sbagliato tutto alla vita, mi sa. Devo salire ancora di più. Credo, sì. No, mi fai salire di... ok.
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
Mamma mia, questa storia è una roba allucinante.
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery. But he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads.
No.
And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then.
Direi.
Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused.
In realtà non stavo pensando a quello.
Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on.
Brava! Bravissima!
I even encouraged him.
Bravissima!
It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend.
Piano.
On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet,
Cioè,
were
guardate
all
come
in his imagination.
la fantasia sta completamente
So he could
prendendo
do
il
whatever he
sopravvento.
wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis.
St. Louis.
He started drifting away from our reality.
In realtà da mo' si è allontanato.
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on. In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a
No, splendido principe, dai.
beautiful prince. The prince was on his own quest for radiant rainbows.
No! 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 Già fatta. Mannaggia tutte cose. E a culo.
He followed the sound of his
Bella l'arpa.
silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even
Eli,
then,
non ti sto
his
salutando
logic
perché non so se mi stai
remained
sentendo.
sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination.
E la miseria, quanti pesci? Un attimo. Comunque lui sembra tipo il piccolo principe.
But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I
Non
think
c'è
it was
più la realtà.
overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Louis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Non c'è più la realtà.
He
Oh.
We began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker.
A chi non farebbe male.
He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
Lo sai che non stai ne prendendo niente, sì? Oh, niente. Te lo sto prendendo praticamente in automatico. Ah, ma io sono il re. Sono il principe. Che devo fare? Andare su?
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting him. His prince waiting, holding his crown.
Ultima c'era il gatto veramente là. Oh, Winston. Oh.
There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Mamma mia. Comunque posso dire che lei è una pessima dottoressa.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Bellissimo che c'è stato il salvataggio anche sullo schermo. Bellino. Diploma.
Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
O ti lasciava vincere. Io non ci abiterei mai qua, mi sembra troppo traballante come casa.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie.
Uff.
I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder.
Difficile.
I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
Non penso che anche per lei
What happened that night had been coming for a long time.
sia stato semplice.
Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night. That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
E noi ce ne siamo andati.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sailed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
Ma dai.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around.
Oops.
For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things.
Tanti cerchi comunque. Cioè, ha qualche simbolismo che non conosco.
Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me.
Molte cose tornarono a me.
Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the band came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you. And tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Madonna, sta parte mi spezza sempre. Minchia Dario, sei arrivato proprio al momento peggiore. Madonna. Grazie Dario per gli 8 mesi. Mamma mia, sta parte mi uccide ogni volta. Tra un mese partoriamo. Minchia, oh. I brividi, i brividini. Come lo chiamiamo? Lo chiamiamo Pazzini? Bello, bello, bello. Bello. 2 orette. Chi è Ruslan, mo? Che mi è cacciato fuori? No, ma sai che mi spezza troppo? Ah, Marinoschi. Mi spezza troppo il good luck di lei. Cioè, quel good luck è un po' come se fosse l'urlo di Armin quando succede quel che succede. Cioè, mi fa venire gli stessi brividi. Emo? Bellissimo. Allora, penso sia uno dei migliori della Annapurna. Eccolo il gigante bestia, è lui. Di quelli che ho giocato, di tutti quelli che ho giocato dell'Annapurna, questo è il migliore. Cioè, a mani basse proprio. Totale, cioè totale proprio. Cioè, che gli vuoi dire? Ma sto bambino che ha passato, ma che è? Cazzato. Bellissimo. Bellissimo. Ah, si possono ripetere le storie. Bello il come. Ah, vedi? Perché loro sono collegate. Comunque la storia che più mi spezza il cuore è quella di Lewis. Lewis. Mamma mia. Mamma mia. Detto questo, noi ci vediamo lunedì con Deviator, sperando di riuscire a portarlo, visto che sarò post allenamento di nuovo, quindi probabilmente sarò sfatta dalla vita. E io vi ringrazio per la compagnia, per il sostegno e per il supporto come sempre. Vi lascio sparpagliare per Twitch, quindi mi raccomando, spamademo, soprattutto se gentili è la cosa più importante. E ci vediamo lunedì, ciao. Domani su Discord se volete passare, se no ciao. 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 Vi mando un bacio grande e un abbraccio gigante, ciao. Ciao. Ho sonno. Ciao, vado a dormire, ciao.